Outlet Liquor is your place to buy a case. Stock up and save when you shop the lowest price available every day at Outlet Liquor. You never have to wait for a sale. The more you buy, the more you save. Only at Outlet Liquor.
What's your outlet?
Welcome, everybody, to I'll Hang Up and Listen. It's been a minute since I've seen you all, but 2023 is upon us and some new things. Ideally, I'll point to behind me the new studio-ish setup, give you all a good look. Got rid of the jerseys. I was too busy, and just kind of crammed all my my starting lineup figurines, some pictures, a new Jim Craig picture over here, some Bill stuff over here. So a lot going on over here for sure. But more importantly, the Buffalo Sabres just stormed back in the third period to beat the best team in the National Hockey League 4-3 in overtime. I cannot be more stoked. What a way to end 2022 when the last 2 weeks have been fucking miserable. Christmas was essentially canceled in Buffalo. Let's be real. We're going into tonight for New Year's Eve. Hopefully people are, either catching up on their Christmas parties, combining Christmas parties and New Year's Eve parties. I don't know. I'm laying low tonight. I'm just definitely going to enjoy this big Sabres victory. And hopefully, ring in the new year and start off fresh, and just like many people hope to do. But the Sabres picked up right where they left off earlier in 2022, continuing their winning streak to 6 games. And just what a performance, honest to God. I mean, the Big Bad Bruins, right? The Bruins have honestly been on an absolute tear, a team that many people felt would probably be the team in the East to drop out of a playoff position. And we couldn't have been more wrong. I was one of them personally. I personally thought that the Bruins would fall off due to their age. But goaltending from both Mark and Swayman has been phenomenal. That Bergeron, Marchand, and Pasta line has been phenomenal. So, they didn't miss a step. If anything, they took steps forward, and that have been great. With that being said, the Sabres, through a lot of struggle, started the season off like it was 7-3, went on an 8-game losing streak, which was catapulted by some serious injuries on your blue line, where you're having AHL guys play, 20 plus minutes a night. And then you come back out of that 8-game losing streak, and it's like you haven't missed a beat when you started the season. So just a recap real quickly before we get into the peanut gallery here. Alex Tuch with a huge night. He was in on every single goal tonight. 4-point night, who, in my opinion, will be the future captain of the Buffalo Sabres. I know that a lot of people will fight me tooth and nail on that. Jacob Bader being one of them. I truly believe that he is the next captain of this team. And there were some post-game comments that I'm going to tweet out after I'll hang up and listen to exemplify why I think he's the future captain of this team. But Alex Tuch, 2 goals, 2 assists. Dylan Cousins with a goal and assist tonight. Dahlin with possibly his best assist of the season. And he had some highlight reel moments this year. But I can't emphasize more that pass that led to the tying goal. That was a set play. The moment he did it, before the shot was even taken, so that was a set play. He realized Tuch had a step on the Boston defenseman. He shot the puck down in the corner hard enough where it would bank off the boards, and it came right to Tuch. Tuch fought him off, got the puck up to Cousins. Cousins finished. Just a great set play, just the awareness there by Dahlin. Him and Tuck kind of being on the same wavelength there, and just to finish that playoff was phenomenal. And then other goals, Tage Thompson with his 27th of the year. It's almost like it's a surprise, honestly, when that guy doesn't score this season. And then it's tough for me to name a player of the game just because I think that 4 points in one game, especially the game winner, and being integral on the game tying goal, it really does kind of solidify you to be the player of the game, right? Your first star. But without the play of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, we're never in that position because Sabres gave up some really jaw-dropping chances in their own end. UPL had to make some really big saves tonight, or today, sorry, not tonight. It was a matinee game. Had to make some really big saves against the top line, too, of Pastrnak, Marchand, and Bergeron. And without his play, we're not even in that position to get that game to overtime. Like, that could have been a blowout. So a couple of clicks, I'll give it to UPL, even though begrudgingly, because I'm a huge Tuck stan. But I'll give it to UPL tonight. 37 saves on 40 shots, best game as a Sabre in my book. And really starting to, make the decision a little bit more difficult when Comrie gets back off this rehab assignment in Rochester. Which direction they're going to go in that. Because in my opinion, I don't think Comrie really lost his position on this team. You can take a look at the numbers all you want, but he started off really well as a Buffalo Sabre. And then Samuelson got hurt. We had some other injuries to Labushkin. And even UPL's game suffered too. I think the only guy that really didn't suffer all that much was Anderson. Anderson, still played pretty well when he was in net even during that stint. But UPL's game suffered too, so you can't even sit there and say that Comrie lost his position. I think I think kind of Baran even said it in between periods. I think UPL is in the driver's seat right now, and he has to make it impossible for this team to send him back to Rochester, which keeps playing like that. He is going to make that decision very, very difficult for Kevin Adams. But yeah, so. The game started off, I was in a group text with a couple of my friends. I'm like, not looking good, guys, because it just seemed the Sabres were chasing so much in their own end. Like, they were just chasing. They weren't keeping things simple. They were overhandling pucks. Casey Middlestad on one occasion, I remember trying to do too many things at once, gave the puck away, led to a scoring chance. Olofsson, too, in front of his own net. Instead of just getting the puck out, he tried to carry the puck out through the middle of the ice from behind his own net, lost the puck, grade A scoring chance in front of his own net. But the Sabres persevered. They went down 1-0 off a phenomenal shot from Pastrnak from the Tage Thompson spot. That's what we're going to call it from now on. And the Sabres persevered, and they battled back. They didn't. And that's an easy thing to do against especially a team like the Boston Bruins. It's very easy to just, here we go. Tage Thompson, phenomenal move in front of the net to score, tie the game. And then there was Alex Tuck, got the second goal to make it 2-1. They come back, make it 2-2, make it 3-2. Guys are starting to grip their sticks a little bit tighter, but UPL's making huge saves, keeping a minute. And then Dahlin, I believe it was right after we killed the second penalty of the 5-on-3. It was the second half of the double minor. He looks down ice, great vision here, and he, like I said, this was absolutely a set play. He sees Tuck with a step on the defenseman, throws it hard down the ice, knows Tuck is going to have him beat for the icing, so that's not a problem. Actually, that might have been just nearing the end of that penalty. I have to take a look. It might not have been an icing. But regardless, he recognizes the situation. Tuck fights him off, gets that puck to the middle of the ice. And who's there? The workhorse from Whitehorse, Dylan Cousins, to bury the puck to tie the game. And Sabres persevered, got through the rest of the period to keep that game tied, and then gets it to overtime. And it got right down, I think, to the last minute of overtime. And again, Alex Tuck coming up huge. Dylan Cousins, again, hauling ass down the wing, finding Tuck in the middle of the ice, stayed up high instead of going back door, stayed up high. and just beat Swayman clean. I think even Swayman looked surprised that puck went in the net. So, and I don't think there was a happier guy in the arena either than UPL. Because to be quite honest, one of the goalies, like most frustrating thing about being a goalie is when you do put out a performance like that and it goes for nothing. I mean, granted, we got a point there, but you want the win. When your goalie plays that well, you want the win. And that's a frustrating thing as a goaltender is when you do play that well and it goes and it's for nothing, essentially. It sucks. So for them to get that win was huge for UPL. I mean, and now again, 6-game winning streak. When's the last time this team has been on a 6-game winning streak? It was probably the 10-game winning streak when they started the season off 10-0. So that was how many years ago? So I mean, 17, 14, and I think 2 right now, well above a 50% chance making the playoffs. And I tweeted it out before the game, and I said it, I think, on either episode 111 of Two Goalies, One Mic, or maybe on a previous All Hang Up and Listen. I said, the Bruins are a huge, huge, huge test. This team literally is dialed in at all times. So well coached, and they just play the game the way it's supposed to be, and whenever you play against Boston, they don't take games lightly. I know they're looking forward to the Winter Classic. I think it's at Fenway Park. But they don't take games lightly. They don't take nights off. And they weren't going to take night off. Olmark, I believe, had some type of minor injury for Swayman to start. But regardless, Swayman on a lot of teams in the NHL is a starting goalie. He's a very highly coveted 1B. So don't look at this. It's like, oh, we got, Swayman, not Olmark. We want redemption against Olmark. Yeah, that would have been fine, but Swayman is a very, very good goaltender. Again, a starting goalie on a lot of teams in this league. So I just, I don't take anything away from this win. That was as hard fought as you are going to find a Sabres victory. And the importance of that victory, again, Sabres, the pressure was all on Buffalo. Coming out of this, it sucks, to lose as the Bruins, but they're still who they are. They haven't lost their identity. They're still the best team in the league. Nothing has really changed for them after this. Sucks to lose, but they are still who they are. They still are a contender to win the Stanley Cup this season. But what this meant for Buffalo is a really, I think in terms of this season, in terms of wins, this is the biggest shift, in terms of the direction you want this team to go. You always want to be moving forward. But in terms of a statement game, this game was a statement. This really was a statement. Again, going back to what I said a few seconds ago, because of how finely tuned of a machine the Boston Bruins are. Make no mistake about it. There is no deeper team in the NHL, more built to win team right now than the Boston Bruins. You can take a look at Colorado, you can look at Florida, you can look at Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay was the closest. But for me, that is a team built to win a Stanley Cup, the blueprint. They have so much depth and so much skill from line 1 to line 4 in net on their blue line. They are just so good. So this was such a huge statement for the Buffalo Sabres. And to go into 2023 having made this statement, the last game of 2022, I mean, playoffs? Playoffs! I've been saying it for a while, guys. I've been saying it for a while. This is an in the hunt type of team. I've said it 100 times. That graphic we used to see as Bills fans, Bills were always in the hunt, kind of like around like a 5-8, or a 5-8 record, or a 6-7 record. You always see on the graphic in the hunt. The Bills are in the hunt. Sabres are in the hunt. They are very much in the hunt. And this is going to make some tough decisions for Kevin Adams, because what do you do? What do you do if you're Kevin Adams? Do you continue to roll with this team that you have, or do you try to improve it? I know culture and the positivity of in that locker room is a huge thing, but at the end of the day, this is a business and business is winning, and they understand that. So what deals you make Kevin Adams with? A, the ability to weaponize your cap space as much as you can, and B, the assets you have. Because draft, I think with this team, as much as you value draft picks, I think that draft picks for me, even to an extent, depending with first round picks, that is like, those are assets now for you to use to make this team better this season. They are. There are players on this team that maybe are pulling their weight enough to maybe get some attention around the league to a team that might be looking to unload some salary of their own, or B, just looking for a guy to come in to consistently contribute to maybe their bottom six, a goal scorer, a power play specialist. We all know who I'm talking about. A face-off guy. We all know who I'm talking about. Even though I didn't hate Casey Middlestad's game for the past couple weeks, he is still a guy, in my opinion, that might be on the outside looking in as far as his future of the team is. So hence why Kevin Adams might be looking at a guy like him. It's like, what do I do with Casey? I mean, he's good in the locker room. He's, blah, blah, blah. But I want to make this team better. I don't want to waste this and just depend on what we've been doing in order as enough to get us to the playoffs, because good teams don't always do that. You always make a move at the deadline to try and, improve this team. And I think even before the deadline. So if I'm Kevin Adams in 2023, if this winning streak keeps growing, what do? I mean, you can't just keep playing Jacob Bryson and Cal Clegg every night. You need help on your blue line. Me personally, I've been a big advocate. I would like to see more help down the middle at center, and because centers will always make their wingers better. It's the right type of centerman. Look at Tage Thompson, what he's been able to do since moving to center on that Tuck and Skinner and Tage line. It's been phenomenal. Dylan has been integral to the success of that kids line, the Paterka, Cousins, and Quinn line. He's been integral to it. I really think you need another centerman, in my opinion. A guy who is good at faceoffs, a guy who can put the puck in the net consistently, because that's how good teams win. You have at least three lines that can play and score. I'm not saying we don't have that right now, but I'm on the fence of the side to say that, I don't have a ton of faith in our bottom six to always score consistently. I use the word consistently. We have seen stretches this season where it has been your top six doing most of the work. Again, that's not how good teams become great. I want to see more depth there. Let's get to the peanut gallery here. We have some comments. Greg Malcolm. Woo! The Sabres, the nature boy Alex Tuck has entered the chat. I love it. I love the woo thing from Alex Tuck. From Paramat Pictures. Like I have said, the tides of turns for the Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era of the Buffalo Sabres are back in full swing. I love that. I absolutely love it. From Robbie. Hey, Duane, how do you feel about that win in overtime by the Sabres over the rival of the Bruins? That looks awesome, bud. Thanks, bud. I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too. What a win for the boys. Great game for Tuck. Solid once again is UPL. On Darlene playing the role of Josh Allen at the end of the third. I'll hang up and listen to you, Duane, and your words of wisdom. Yeah, I mean, that's a good analogy, a Josh Allen analogy from end to end there. I like that. Precision at its finest. Michael Partham, I haven't seen you out of the chat, bud. Scoring the OT winner with Marchand out there was icing on the cake. Absolutely, man. Like all the beatings we've taken from Boston over the years, all the shit that Marchand has pulled. It is nice to see him out there. I tweeted out earlier the two goalies with Mike Chess. The curse of Lucic is finally officially over. The tides are turning, in my opinion. UPL has been looking good. I hope they keep him up here in Buffalo. Yeah, you amongst a lot of other people. Unfortunately, it's not our decision to make. With his signature woo call, I think it's safe to say the real nature boy is Alex Tuck. Agreed. Couldn't agree with you more, bud. Mauricio, love it when you're in the chat. Let's go Sabres. Beat the so-called Big Bad Bruins. Remember when Mauricio, when you're like a month ago, you were just all doom and gloom, and now it's just nothing but looking up, bud. You love to see it. But yeah, this again was a big statement win for Buffalo. We go to the Bruins numbers. David Krejci, big role player for them, 2 assists tonight. Marchand with a goal and assist. Pasternak with a goal and assist. Bergeron with a goal. So that top line doing most of the damage, if not almost all the damage, for the Bruins tonight. They're one of the best lines in hockey, if not the best line in hockey. They are literally, I would say 90% of the season, 95% of the season, they are on the score sheet. One of those three are on the score sheet. Unless they're getting shut out, they're on the score sheet. They're finding ways to impact the game. And I don't think they've been shut out this season, to be quite honest. Their record is insane. So they are 28-4-4 as the Sabres moved to 18-14-2. So, couple clicks for the Buffalo Sabres. Again, taking down the Big Bad Bruins, because that, again, was huge in terms of wins this season being the biggest. That is a huge, huge win and a great way to ice out 2022. Again, moving forward to the rest of the schedule. I believe we have the Senators next. Correct me if I'm wrong. In Ottawa, yep, we have the Senators next, and then Buffalo returns home for their first game in Buffalo in 2023. Their first game in Buffalo in a while due to the 2002 blizzard here in Buffalo. First game probably in 2 weeks back in Buffalo against the Capitals. As Ovechkin continues to chase greatness. Hopefully Buffalo can ice him too. And then against this coming next Saturday against the Wild, they're back on the they're on the road. They don't come back home until Saturday, actually. So even more so, maybe 3 weeks until Sabres play in Buffalo again. So I apologize for that mistake. There we go. But speaking of which, I know we all went through a lot of hell through that storm here in Western New York. So I hope that we've kind of navigated through that and, trying to get back to normalcy. I know it was pretty devastating. I remember looking out my window last Saturday at like 3:00 in the morning, my front bay window, and I was like, wow. It's the very first time I've ever felt fear because of weather. Living in Western New York, obviously we get a lot of slack for snow, in my opinion, before this year. Yeah. But in my opinion, I think that unjustifiably we get slack for snow normally because, that's from the people on the outside look who don't live here, say, oh, all it does is snow there. I feel like over the last few years, the snowfall, at least in Western New York, has really been, consistently over time rather than we're getting dumped on by snow, consistently like we have this year. But this year is kind of a testament to that stereotype that comes with living in Buffalo, with like over 120 inches and 2 snowfalls. So it's been hell since winter started for sure. Again, I looked out that window. I live in Tonawanda and I have Niawanda Park right in front of my house, where the water is. And they have there's like a pier there, a walking pier. And to give you some visual, it's probably about at the shoreline. It goes off the shoreline and, it's posted up in the water. I'd say it's about 5 feet above the water line, 5-6 feet. And I was looking out the window and I've never seen the water so violent since I've lived out here in like the near 10 years I've lived out here. And, it was just very violent. I couldn't see that walkway, that pier anymore because just the waves and how much the water had come up the shoreline. It was scary. It was absolutely scary. And, living up in the North Towns, we don't really get hit hard with snow. We're kind of fortunate to avoid a lot of lake effect stuff. But, for 4 days, 3.5, 4 days, just being kind of stuck here in the house, because of the weather, my house was shaking. It was scary, man. And I'm glad I shopped when I did, so I could, I was probably gonna be staying indoors. I shopped enough, made sure I could hunker down here and have enough to eat. And me and Dom, the dog, just got some good bonding time, I guess, watching Christmas movies and watching sports when we could. So, and unfortunately though, there were a lot of people who lost their lives in the city of Buffalo, and my heart, my thoughts go out to them. And, I hope that, people within the city are helping each other as much as possible. I saw, of the Bills Mafia babes, Kristen Kimmick was down there shoveling out, people's houses along with a bunch of other people. Kate Glazer, I think it was kind of helping from the news, was helping lead that initiative. So I hope that we're all trying to get back to normalcy, find some time to celebrate Christmas late with families and celebrate the ringing in of a new year and hopefully better times to look forward to in 2023. So happy New Year to everybody. And I hope that, this Sabres win is one, the first of many to come in 2023, and be like foreshadowing better things in 2023, because I think we all have had a pretty rough year for the most part. And, I just hope that things get better. So, but let's start talking more. Let's get back into the Sabres. how difficult is it, the decision for Kevin Adams to make when it comes to UPL? Because these last three games, he's really gotten his shit together. Yes. But even before that, he struggled a lot. And part of that does go to deal with injuries on your blue line. So what do you do? Because you're not getting rid of Eric Comrie, in my opinion. You're not. You signed him to a deal. I can't see them getting rid of him. Or do they carry 3 goaltenders? I don't know how that works. Or do you allow UPL to go back down and play games? Because I don't think if you waive Eric Comrie, somebody I think picks him up 100%. And I don't think you're doing that to Craig Anderson, just A, out of respect, and B, he hasn't done anything to lose his job here in Buffalo. The guy is 41 years old, over 20 years in the league, I think it is. So, just out of respect alone, you don't do that to that guy. So is there a trade coming? I mean, do you trade at Eric Comrie? Do you talk to Craig Anderson about that option? I don't know. I think, and I'm not predicting, I think that maybe you do see UPL go back to Rochester just because they're in a situation like, what do you do? And, you give Eric Comrie a fair shake to continue the success the team has had with UPL in that. And if it doesn't work, then there's no reason you can't go back to him. But it's a tough spot for Kevin Adams to be in because, again, Eric Comrie did nothing wrong to lose his job. But I have always said UPL needs to make it impossible for Kevin Adams to move on to move him back to the AHL in Rochester. So I think that if you get another win or two like this out of UPL where he plays solid like this, I think that actually I can't even predict how it goes. I don't know if you can carry 3 goaltenders. I don't know how that works. Let's hope 2002 is the end of the rebuild. 13 seconds and all that heartbreak this year. 100%. Yeah, I agree. Let's hope that is the end. But yeah, I would like to see UPL stay in Buffalo. I would. I've been a very big critic of Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. One, because of the injury history. He has had a lot of lower body hip issues. And B, just the inconsistency. Like you'll see 1 or 2 huge games out of UPL, and then, for a week, he'll be less than average. And you can't have that out of your 1A. So I do hope that UPL has put that all behind him, and then we can move forward with him as the starting goaltender, with either Eric Comrie or Craig Anderson as your solid 1B. So, and good. Eric Comrie can kick rocks. He can sit on the bench for all I care. I don't disagree with you. But again, he has been signed to a 2-year deal, and it's a one-way contract. Like they can't just send him down to Rochester. They would have to waive him, hope nobody claims him, and then you might lose him for nothing, which isn't good. So either A, have to find a good trade partner for the guy, which again, I don't know if that's what they'll be looking to do. It's tough. It's a tough spot. Even Marty Baron had trouble answering that question between periods. Like and that's a guy I think if you're going to, bow to in terms of knowing what to do in the situation, a guy who sat behind Miller for a few years, finally, when he was traded, got his chance to start with Philly and, for a while. He didn't even have a clean answer for it. So it's tough. It is a tough decision for Kevin Adams to make coming up here. So we'll see what happens. Comrie, I don't know if he's even gotten his first start in Rochester. I think he was assigned there today. So he hasn't gotten a start with the Americans yet. Normally these rehab assignments last like 2 or 3 games. So, we'll have a better idea of how that goes over the next week, I'd imagine. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Another big thing too, Doug Clark here chiming in. I still can't believe Krebsy had an answer for that beautiful hit on Hall. Why does every clean it? I still can't believe Krebsy had to answer for that beautiful hit on Hall. Why does every clean hit have to be addressed? But great on Krebsy for not backing out. I agree. I was thinking that too as it happened. Krebs throws a great hit into Hall, who flew back into the refs / the boards, and immediately has to answer for it from Clifton. I could see if it was like, a borderline hit that, questionable hit, or even a hit that was given a penalty, but it was clean as they come. And why does he have to answer for that? Like, I didn't understand that. Is that frustration brewing over for him? Maybe him just trying to make a statement in the lineup? I don't know. But it made no sense for me. And how does that not get an instigator call either, by the way? That made no sense to me. He legitimately came for Krebs. That was his whole argument. Like that was the whole thing. Like, it wasn't even close to a dirty hit. It was as clean as they come. He came for Krebs. There was no play on the puck there. He came specifically to fight Peyton Krebs. And Peyton Krebs obliged him. He's like, let's go. Let's throw some fairs. And good on Peyton Krebs for answering the bell, even though it was a bell he shouldn't have had to answer. It was a good tilt. Krebs went straight to the locker room because Clifton did get him good once or twice there at the end. And I didn't agree with him having answered the bell. And I think I'm in the consensus with many Sabres fans, the majority, that was bullshit, that he didn't at least get an instigator penalty there. That was a head scratcher for sure. Another from Craig Malcolm. Happy New Year, bud. Buffalo's running the table this year. Let's fucking go. Agreed. You keep Comrie for next season at UPL, maybe splits games with him and next Anderson out as mentor for both guys. Hopefully he sticks around to teach both a lot more inconsistent play. Yeah, I mean, again, I have to look into that, how that works, about carrying 3 goaltenders. Obviously, it's a little different when it comes to the previous years when you had the taxi cab squad. Can't even see me with that friggin' that paragraph that Chris Turk wrote. It's a little different when you had a taxi squad because of COVID. You can carry a third. That's not the case right now, I don't think. I'm not sure how many extra players you can carry, to play as like your seventh. I don't know how that works. So again, difficult questions that Kevin Adams will have to answer. One of many. So we'll see if Comrie really is team first and accept either demotion, benching, or rotation. I think it was always going to be a rotation between him and Anderson. I don't think it was ever going to be the clear-cut 1A. I think it was always going to be a situation with Anderson that he was going to be, a guy. Anderson was probably going to get one of every 4 starts, every 4 games. In my opinion, I think that's what the plan was to start the season, so you didn't overload Craig the way we did last year. Comrie can't be judged in that 8-game losing streak and no top 4D, specifically Samuelson. I would like to see him with health and deep in front of him. Anderson will probably only take a trade to Florida. I agree. Again, I don't advocate trading Craig Anderson because I love Craig Anderson, man. He's such a good dude. Him and his family have been through a lot. He's been a great goaltender, 300 win club. Got it here with Buffalo. He's played very well this season. He's done nothing wrong to deserve to be benched or be kicked out of this lineup. It's a tough situation if you're Kevin Adams. It really is, because I think you really do have 3 good goaltenders. I really do believe that. You look at Craig Anderson's numbers; they're well above average. UPL over the last 3 games has had like a .940 save percentage. And Eric Comrie, again, like Craig said, you can't judge him on those first 8 games because his team was a train wreck. After they went 7-3, it was, they were an absolute train wreck. So, do I think that Comrie could be the odd man out? Yeah, I do think. I think if push comes to shove and UPL keeps playing this way, maybe they try and find a trade partner. I don't know. I don't know how I don't know. That's a deadline move for me, I think. Personally, that's a move that would come at the deadline. I don't know if the trade of a goaltender mid-season would happen. That's a deadline move, in my opinion. Comrie is actually playing right now versus the Marlies. Doug, when you get a chance, can you give us an update on that? I'd appreciate it. They can carry 3 goalies, but that counts to the 23-man roster. And if an injury happens up front or in the back end, you are screwed because you can't put the replacement in the lineup. That's what I thought. You just can't. Teams just don't carry extra goalies just to carry extra goalies. Yeah, that's what I thought. It really would hinder you, the situation where, say, Samuelson gets hurt again. Then you got to waive somebody down to Rochester to make room for a call-up. That's what I thought. I think the retaliation after a clean hit is because teams don't want to look like they are soft and are allowing teams to bully them, especially because it's Boston. The crowd would like to kill them for that. I don't disagree with you. Comrie faced 7 shots in the first period, stopped 7-7. Amherst winning 1-0. So Comrie off to a good start. His rehab assignment in Rochester. Well, again, we'll see how the rest of that goes. And the decisions both Kevin Adams and Donnie Meatballs Don Granado will have to make. Other decisions, as I alluded to before, is what do you do with this team if they still win? Right now, they are 18-14-2 or 18-14-4, I believe. What do you do if you do continue to string wins together here in 2023? Like, what do you do if you're Kevin Adams? Because you don't just want to waste what's happening right now. You want to end the drought. That's the goal, right? Goal is always to win the Stanley Cup. But I think here in Buffalo, you want to end the drought too, just much like the Bills did a few years back. I think today is actually, ironically enough, the anniversary. I saw it on Twitter. Today is the anniversary, 5-year, I think, anniversary of when the Bills ended the drought on the touchdown pass from Andy Dalton to Tyler Boyd. I was with a good friend of mine, John King, in New Jersey during that night. We were getting ready to go to the Winter Classic, Sabres versus the Rangers. A weird game where Buffalo was considered the home team, I believe, because it wasn't I forget what the reasoning was. But Sabres were the home team 400 miles away. It made no sense. Anyways, but I digress. We were there celebrating that. I remember me and my buddy John. I'll tweet that picture out. I'm going to find that picture. I'll tweet it out later. Me and my boy John King had an electric weekend, well-needed vacation for the both of us. Went out to Jersey for the Winter Classic, celebrated New Year's with my good buddy Kenny Noski, and we watched the game at his house. Bills ended the drought, and then while we went to this party, while everybody's really dressed up in nice clothing, me and John went out in our Bills jersey, my Freddie Jackson jersey, and I want to say he might have been wearing either a Thurman Thomas or a Bruce Smith jersey. But there's a good picture of us, and I'll tweet it out later, of us falling asleep on some stranger's couch with beer in each of our hands, completely passed out from celebrating the Bills ending a 17-year playoff drought. Great times. A couple clicks for the 5-year anniversary of ending the drought, and hopefully this year is the year the Sabres end the drought. I think that if you do string some more wins together here, how do you look at what you're doing right now and say, I don't improve this team? You have to improve this team. And with that being said, is it a Jacob Chychrun? I've been pretty high on the potential of going to Vancouver and weaponizing our cap space, because they're a team that needs to unload cap. They have too much money tied up in the wrong players and might be willing to, reward a team, so to speak, gift a team a player in order for taking on a contract. Now, depending on who that contract is, that I don't know. I have thrown out the idea about Tyler Myers coming back to Buffalo. He's only got 1 year left on his deal. He has actually not played terribly this year in Vancouver. I think he's like a +4. I know plus minus is a very misleading stat, but on that team, like, to be a defenseman with a positive plus minus, that's an accomplishment. Take on the Tyler Myers contract for 1 more year, and in return, you get a guy like maybe a Brock Besser on the cheap. I know he'll be a UFA, but maybe a guy like Bo Horvat on the cheap. I don't know. Especially, I want help down the middle, but a guy like Brock Besser, I think, would fit very well here in Buffalo. I think that it's I think that you make that deal, and it's a tough, because the kids line has played very well, but I really want to have 2 lines that are interchangeable on your second and third line. That would involve bringing in a center, because I don't think Casey Middlestat, personally, to me, is getting it done as your third line center. And I think I want to improve there. With that being said, I don't know who it is, because Bo Horvat, I don't think you're making a deal for Bo Horvat because he's going to want 7 or 8 million next season for the way he's playing this year, which I think he deserves it. And I think he'll get paid it. I don't know if it's going to be Buffalo, but he'll get paid it. And B, I'm not paying that type of assets for a rental, which I think is where you kind of bring in Tyler Myers in the situation where maybe it makes it cheaper to bring in a guy like Bo Horvat because you're taking on a contract like Tyler Myers for the next year and a half. And you can do it. You definitely can do it. You have the cap space to do it. So where does Tyler Myers slot in? I think he could slide into your top 4 to play with Owen Power. I think they are opposite shot defensemen. Or maybe he does slide into your bottom 6. And in that case, it just gives you a lot more better depth. And I'm not even all on board with making that. I'm just offering that as a suggestion because the Jacob Chikrin thing is still out there. And people keep bringing Buffalo up into that conversation. And he would fit in perfectly with our top 4, in my opinion. So there's a lot of moves that can be made with teams that are looking to unload cap, looking to rebuild. Teams like Chicago, teams still like Montreal, who are, probably, looking at this Connor Bedard draft as an opportunity. Teams that want to be in that draft lottery conversation. I think Buffalo is far removed from that conversation. I don't think, anybody would argue with me with that. It's finally nice to be removed from that conversation. But there are teams that know and want to be involved with that draft lottery for the next generational player in Connor Bedard, a guy who has been the consensus first overall draft pick of his class for 2 years now. They're talking about him like he's McDavid. And if you've watched him play, they are right in saying that because this kid is going to be special. This is a kid that is going to put up like 80 plus points his rookie season. I'm not saying he's going to do exactly what guys like Crosby and Ovechkin did their first season, but he's definitely capable of being a player like that, 100% without a doubt, if he plays a full 82-game season. So there are teams that are going to, be in that that want to be in that conversation for Connor Bedard, that will be looking to maybe unload either A, talent, or B, cap to keep themselves in that conversation. Because if there ever was a player to tank for, like we tried to do for McDavid, we got the consolation prize of Eichel. It is Connor Bedard. So there are teams that are going to be making moves, much like what Buffalo is doing, to tank for Connor Bedard. And I think Buffalo is in a position to take on a bad contract and make moves like that without having to sacrifice a ton. And I think that's how you get it done. I'm not on board with sacrificing a bunch of draft capital, but I think with how good this team is playing and, how the direction of this franchise is going, what the direction of the franchise is going in, I think that your draft picks are turning into assets. And I'd be fully on board for making a trade for a player either on your blue line or down the middle. Or again, I'm not against a scoring winger, but I personally think centers make the wingers. And I think that you want to improve yourself down the middle for sure, because I think your top 2 lines are set, man. I don't think you touch those 2 lines, at least right now, or you try and build a third line that'd be interchangeable with your second line, depending on the matchup. So that's just my opinion. And I think guys like Casey Middlestat and Victor Olofsson won't finish the season with Buffalo. I just don't think they will. So again, I don't know if I'm Kevin Adams, what I'm doing, who I'm doing with. I'm going to take a look. I'm going to take a look here in the peanut gram and see what you guys think. Annie Dalton is a Bills legend. Can't argue that. The Sabres were the home team that day because the Rangers can't play a home game outside of MSG, I think was the reason. Okay. Step 1, get back to the playoffs. Step 2, get past the first round of the playoffs. Step 3, win it all. Step 4, sorry for blocking your face from saying too much. It's all good, bud. I love you for it. Maybe this will work. Casey Middlestat will score 30 goals. That'll put a lot of butts in seats. Yeah, I don't think Casey Middlestat's going to score 30 goals. But again, he hasn't pissed me off as much as he did in the beginning of the season, over, I say, the last couple weeks. Before we had kind of a stoppage because of the weather here in Buffalo. But again, he's a very hot and cold player who, because of what we have in the pipeline, because of guys like Matthew Savoy, Noah Ostlund, Yuri Kulik, You have Peyton Krebs, who was drafted as a center. I think that he becomes the odd man out, maybe. And regardless of how good he's playing right now, I tend to agree. Olofsson, we all know, the story on him. Hot and cold 5-on-5, power play specialist. Guy has an incredible shot. But I think Yuri Kulik has just as powerful of a shot, and he's a center who can play the wing. A guy who's better 5-on-5 and makes a guy like Olofsson in the future probably expendable, because especially when he plays from that, Kulik can play from that same spot that Olofsson does, and he gives you more. He's more desirable 5-on-5. But those are the two guys. You look at the blue line. I mean, Yoki Haru's hurt again. I don't know what pieces you move on your blue line. I mean, Labushkin had a tough game tonight, but I don't think he gets moved. Yoki Haru might be a guy that you look at. Ryan Johnson, who maybe you trade the rights to Ryan Johnson because no one really knows what he's going to do. Askari Leskinen, who's already been traded, so he's out of the conversation. I don't know. I really don't know. So there's a lot that I think that Kevin Adams has to work with. I think one thing you really have to look at in terms of asset is using your cap space to your advantage to teams that are strapped up against the cap, teams that need to unload players off their roster, a bad contract, take on a bad contract, a player that's going to be serviceable for you, that maybe makes too much money. You take on part of their deal, and in return, maybe you either A, get draft picks, or maybe B, you get another player on their roster that would be, on the outs looking in. Guys like a Bo Horvat or a Brock Besser on the cheaper side of things, because you are taking on money for them. You're doing them a favor, essentially. We've seen it happen. You saw it happen with Vegas when they traded away Marc-Andre Fleury to the Minnesota Wild for literally nothing. Literally nothing. They got nothing for him. They took on the contract, and in return, they had to give up nothing for him. So I'm not saying that's the deal you make, but I think if you're Kevin Adams, those are the types of deals you're trying to make. You're trying to use that cap space to your advantage on deals that don't have a ton of term left. Again, I'm not saying this is the guy, but like a Tyler Myers, a guy who can come in, maybe improve your blue line, and in return, you get, because I don't think Vancouver's in a position to trade away draft picks, but you get a player on their roster now that can help your team now cheaper than what you would have if you didn't take on the contract. That's the point I'm making. With that being said, it's been a great time. Been on here for almost an hour with you guys, 50 minutes running over that. Huge win for the Sabres, 4-3 in overtime. Can't express enough how happy and elated I am to end 2022 that way and head into 2023 with a 6-game winning streak. Tage Thompson for the Hart Trophy, Rasmus Dahlin for the Norris. Those are initiatives for 2023. That's our New Year's resolutions. Definitely looking at the All-Star game this year, you could possibly see 2 to 3 Sabres on that roster for sure. But again, I digress. We'll see what happens. Will this be like the year where we all voted, night and day, like we used to do for Briere and Drury and Miller and Campbell the year of the All-Star game? The year we had 3 players in it. So maybe that's what we need to do this year, because there's zero reason why both Tage Thompson and Rasmus Dahlin shouldn't be near the top of the voting for All-Star votes this season. We need to get back to that fan base, be that fan base again, who literally just hammered Twitter, hammered social media, hammered in those emails to get our players into the All-Star game. Make it more desirable to watch. Maybe Tage Thompson could score 6 goals like Briere. I think Briere scored 4 or 5. He won that big truck as the MVP of the All-Star game. Let's get Tage that truck, or Dahlin that truck. So I'll hang up and listen. It's been real. One last comment here. Maybe this. Oh no, we already saw that one. Yeah. Casey Millsdale will never score 30 goals. I'll hang up and listen. It's been real. Happy New Year to all of you. Go Sabres. Go Bills. And remember, this has been brought to you by Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case over on Georgia Boulevard. Get over to Outlet Liquor for all of your adult beverage needs, either for Sabres game night or Bills game day or primetime Monday night, Bills versus Cincy, Josh Allen versus Joe Burrow. Get over to Outlet Liquor, the place to buy a case. Shout out to my buddy Nick Fatty Beer Company, for going out of his way for the Buffalo Strong tournament. Donated $1,500 to the cause. Really helped us a lot. Appreciate you, Nick. Get over to Fatty Beer Company too as well tonight for their New Year's Eve party if you can. So I'll hang up and listen. Happy New Year to you all, and go Sabres.